Hello, my name is Roman Navarro, and for my project, I chose a program that can do sentimental analysis on pieces of text, which I named SAM, or the Sentiment Analysis Machine. This is the outline of the presentation, and here are the key ideas that I'm going to be going over. So, first of all, I'm going to introduce you to SAM. Then I'm going to talk about my research and inspiration, what made me want to create this program, and why. Then I'm going to talk about the method of implementation, that is, how I decided to use SAM, in which way. Then I'm going to give you a quick project demonstration and show you what it's capable of doing. Then I'm going to talk about the challenges I faced, as well as the lessons I learned from this project, and finally the references. Now here we are at the introduction. So SAM, as its name suggests, Sentiment Analysis Machine, it does just that. It analyzes a piece of text and determines the kind of emotion being invoked in said piece of text. I was inspired by the ELIZA program by Joseph Weizenbaum, which is, you could say, one of the first chatbots in existence. It was completed in 1967, and pretty much users could just talk to it the way you would with ChatGPT today, except obviously it wasn't as advanced back then. The method of implementation I decided on is through a CSV file. So what happens is I give the program a CSV file containing 500,000 quotes, and using a for loop, I iterate through each of those quotes and run SAM on each of them. SAM can be used by the community to analyze reviews for services and products. This is what I see the best implementation for SAM. For example, on eBay or Amazon, or even Rotten Tomatoes, where users can rate the movies or products for others to see. This is a good place where I see SAM being used. So it can take all of these reviews, iterate through each of them, then return a general analysis of each product or movie. Research and inspiration. So, as mentioned earlier, I was inspired by the work of Joseph Weizenbaum. In one of the class lectures, we did talk about the ELIZA program that he worked on, and when I learned about it, I felt it was a good start for me to get into AI, especially as someone who has never worked on AI on a project up until this point. It really seemed to me the perfect AI beginner project. It seemed like something very feasible that I can replicate, at least partially. Now, artificial sentiment analysis, which I also learned from my research and in class as well, is not in any way intelligent, at least not in the same sense wherein humans are intelligent. Artificial intelligence, it derives patterns when given huge quantities of data, so you cannot really say that is intelligence, at least not the way we humans learn. And as mentioned previously, sentiment analysis can be used in various industries as well, namely in the e-commerce sector when users want to purchase products online. And this, of course, can be translated over into other industries, such as retail and marketing. Method of implementation. On the right, you can see the various technologies used for my project. First of all, you have SciPy, from which I derive the softmax function in my program. And this softmax function, what it does, it gets what are called raw logits, and it converts these into user-friendly probabilities, which you will see in a bit when I showcase the project itself. Then there is Hugging Face, a website from which I got the learned AI model used in this project, which is called Roberta. And that in itself is a derived model from the more commonly known BERT, which was developed by engineers at Meta. For the programming language, I used Python and, of course, CSV files, or one CSV file, for the iterating over. Sentiment analysis was implemented via a single Python script. So, what the script does is it consists of three functions, which we'll look into in a bit. One of those functions is responsible for the sentiment analysis itself. Another function is responsible for handling user input. And the third one is used to iterate through the CSV file. Again, we make use of Roberta and these things called tokenizers, which in simple terms, they break down given pieces of text into smaller portions, which are called, as you might guess, tokens. So given a piece of text, Sam returns whether it's either of these three emotions or sentiments, as well as a probability of it being each one. Now I'm going to show you a demonstration of Sam in action. Here we are in VS Code where I am going to run Sam from. I'm going to call the main file. Here you can see that two strings have already been analyzed. The first one is a Bible verse. That one has a rating of 53.13% chance of being neutral. The second one is a quote from this famous historical figure. It got a negative rating at 85.19%. That quote is from Robert Oppenheimer. But these are not from the CSV file itself. These are actually hard-coded into the program down here. Here is the function being called on both of these strings, sentiment analysis. Here is sentiment analysis. There is Roberta, the model. Here's the model being instantiated, tokenizer being instantiated, and here is the tokenizer doing its work of cutting up the input into various tokens and so on. There's a softmax function from SciPy being used. I can also type in strings of my own directly, and that is thanks to the user input function, which pretty much just uses a while true loop, getting input from the user indefinitely. So I can put, I really love this course. And that returns a positive rating of 99.06%. And now if I type in next, we'll be able to read from the CSV file. I can specify the number of quotes I want analyzed. And keep in mind that the CSV file, which can be seen, let me find it. Here, the CSV file, it contains 500,000 entries. And these are quotes. So just to keep things quick, I'm going to put in 10. It'll pull 10 random quotes from the CSV file. And the random is done with random.shuffle. We first of all shuffle the list, then we get the quotes we want using this for loop. So they've already been generated. Let me choose one. An unjust law is itself a species of violence. Arrest for its breach is more so. This one has a negative rating at 92.82%. So in other words, there was a 92.82% likelihood of this quote being negative. That's how it works. Let me show you some further examples. I'm going to run the program again. It'll return those the same two strings from earlier. And what's a good one? Let's do a negative one this time. I really hate cucumbers on my food. 97.94% negative. But if I put I really hate cucumbers on my food, but I love pickles, then we get 78.97% negative. And that's pretty much due to the love keyword. It makes the string not so negative. Now let's analyze some more quotes from the CSV file. This time let's do 20. More likely than not, we will get different quotes than from last time. Oh, I gotta put next first. 20. We're getting quite a mix of positive, negative, neutral. This one really caught my eye. It says F the rabbit, eat it, and go after a lion. Because of the F word. And I guess the overall quote, it gets a 93.89% negative rating. And I want to show you that I did not write any of these quotes myself. They are inside of this. I can do it from VS Code. Here's the quotes CSV file. It's just full of quotes. It's pretty hard to read in VS Code. So let me just go back here and show it in the Numbers app. One moment. It's a pretty big file, so I'm just gonna skip ahead. Here you go. It's loaded up. And in my code, we don't actually iterate through the first line. You can see that in the load data right here. We go through every single item except for the first one. But yes, as mentioned, it's not opening. But it doesn't matter. We can just see it for ourselves here through VS Code. I can go forever. And that is it for the program demonstration. Now I'm going to move on to challenges and lessons learned in this project. So first of all, there is a small number of quotes in the CSV file which are broken. So this had to be worked around. Now, I thought it'd be very tedious for me to have to go through every single quote in the CSV file, considering that there are 500,000 of them. And so I don't know exactly which ones are broken, but what I do know is that every time I'd get an error, it would always be runtime error. So how this works, my for loop, for each quote that is iterated through, we first of all check to see if runtime error will be run. If it's run for that particular quote, we skip over it with continue. And that was my workaround, runtime error. Another challenge is that Sam cannot easily detect sarcasm. Here I have an example provided for you. This says, "Oh, just great. Aren't you quite the genius?" Because it sees words with otherwise positive connotations, such as great and genius, it hallucinates and it thinks that it is positive because of these keywords when in reality it's not. One lesson that I learned is that AI is not as intelligent as much of the world would make it out to be. This sarcasm example was a good example of that. And here's a quote by Joseph Weizenbaum. But once a particular AI program is unmasked, its magic crumbles away. So it's going back to what I said earlier, where these machines, they don't really learn in the same sense of how we humans learn. They more so just derive patterns when given these massive quantities of data. That's how machine learning works. Here is my reference, Joseph Weizenbaum's paper, Eliza, a computer program for the study of natural language communication between man and machine, published in 1966. It's also around that time where Eliza, of course, was released to the public. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening to me walk you through this slideshow and my SAM program. I had much fun creating it. I really enjoyed this course, and hopefully I can continue learning more about AI, especially given my now profession as a game developer. I would love to further implement it into my projects. Again, thank you for your time. Hello again. In looking over the video, I realized that I forgot to include some important references. Namely, first off, to the official Hugging Face website, containing the portal to the Roberta model, which is the second one shown here. And here it is in Chrome. Here you can find all the important information regarding Roberta, tips, as well as some documentation that I use to help me implement this model into my code. The third reference is to a YouTube video I used for inspiration. That is inspiration to use the Roberta model because I was unsure of which one to use, as well as help to help me implement it in code in Python. The channel is called AI Spectrum, and the video is called Twitter Sentiment Analysis by Python. Here I have it open. He pretty much talks about how he uses the Roberta module model to rate different tweets and determine their sentiment. And that was all. Thank you again.